The night began like every other exhausting shift, with tired feet, a forced smile, and the quiet hope that somehow things might be different this time. The restaurant glowed with warm yellow lights, but for her, it always felt cold by the end of the night. Tables filled and emptied, plates clattered, orders were rushed, and time slipped by in a blur. She had learned not to expect kindness anymore, especially not on nights like this. When rent was overdue and her phone buzzed with reminders, she couldn't answer. She was a single mother, a waitress running on caffeine, prayers, and the fragile belief that tomorrow might be easier than today. Her name was Lily, and she had mastered the art of appearing fine even when she wasn't. Every smile she offered was practiced. Every polite nod, carefully measured. Behind it all was a woman carrying the weight of 2 lives on her shoulders. Her son waited at home with a neighbor, doing homework at the kitchen table they shared. Unaware of how close they were to losing that tiny apartment, Lily kept those fears locked away, because fear didn't pay bills, and tears didn't bring tips. That night, a man walked in who didn't belong to the usual crowd. He wore a tailored suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, his watch catching the light every time he moved his wrist. He didn't smile when he was seated. He didn't look around. He sat like someone used to being served, not someone used to noticing the people doing the serving. Lily didn't know his name yet, but she recognized the type. Wealth clung to him the way exhaustion clung to her. She greeted him warmly, asked how his evening was, and listed the specials with the same care she gave every table. He barely acknowledged her, offering short answers, eyes fixed on his phone. Still, she did her job perfectly. She refilled his glass before he asked, checked in at the right moments, and made sure his meal arrived exactly as ordered. She told herself that professionalism mattered, even when gratitude didn't come back. As the night went on, the restaurant slowly emptied. The laughter faded, chairs were stacked, and the hum of conversation softened into background noise. Lily kept glancing at the clock, counting the minutes until she could go home and collapse into bed. Her feet throbbed, and her back ached, but she pushed through it. She always did. When the man finally finished his meal, he asked for the check without looking up. Lily placed it neatly on the table and walked away, already bracing herself. Some people tipped generously, some barely at all, and some left nothing. She had learned not to let it break her, but it always stung just the same. A few minutes later, the man stood, adjusted his jacket, and walked toward the door. He didn't say thank you. He didn't look back. Lily waited until he was gone before picking up the check. She glanced at the receipt, and her heart sank. The tip line was empty. $0. For a moment, she just stood there, staring. It wasn't anger that hit her first, it was exhaustion. The kind that seeps into your bones and makes everything feel heavier than it should. She swallowed hard, fighting the familiar ache behind her eyes. That tip would have covered groceries for the week. It would have eased the knot in her chest, if only a little. She began clearing the table, moving on autopilot. Plate, glass, napkin. Then she noticed something unusual. Beneath the plate, folded carefully, was a small piece of paper. Her first thought was that it might be trash, a receipt or a note accidentally left behind. She almost tossed it aside without looking, but something made her pause. She unfolded it slowly. Inside was a handwritten note, the ink slightly smudged as if written in a hurry. Her breath caught as she read the words. They weren't long, but they were heavy. It spoke of a man who had once been poor, who had slept in his car and eaten meals he couldn't afford. It spoke of bitterness, of building walls so thick that kindness felt like weakness. It spoke of forgetting what it felt like to struggle, and of realizing too late that money could harden a heart if you let it. The note ended with a simple apology, not for the tip, but for the pain his silence might have caused. Tucked inside the fold was something else, a check. Lily's hands trembled as she looked at the number written on it. It was more money than she had ever seen in one place before. Enough to clear her debts, enough to breathe again, enough to change everything. She sank into a chair, the noise of the restaurant fading away as tears finally fell. Not just because of the money, but because of the message. Someone had seen her. Someone had acknowledged her struggle, even if they couldn't do it face to face. She didn't sleep that night. She sat at her kitchen table, the note and check spread out in front of her, her son asleep in the next room. She thought about how close she had been to giving up, to believing that kindness no longer existed. She thought about how a single moment, a single choice, could ripple outward and change a life. In the days that followed, Lily paid her bills, stocked her fridge, and fixed the broken heater in their apartment. Life didn't suddenly become perfect, but it became manageable. The constant fear loosened its grip, and for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to dream. She didn't forget where she came from. She kept waiting tables, but she did it differently now. She noticed people more. She listened. She offered warmth not just because it was her job, but because she knew how much it mattered. When she could, she paid for a stranger's coffee, or left an extra tip for a coworker having a rough day. She understood now that kindness wasn't about grand gestures. It was about seeing the humanity in front of you. Months later, the man returned. She recognized him immediately, though he looked different somehow. Softer. He hesitated when he saw her, as if unsure whether to approach. Lily felt her heart race, but she steadied herself. She walked over, greeted him like any other customer, and this time, he met her eyes. They didn't talk about the note. They didn't talk about the money. They talked about ordinary things. Weather, work, life. When he left, he smiled and thanked her, genuinely this time. Lily watched him go, feeling a sense of closure she hadn't known she needed. That night, she told her son a story before bed. Not about billionaires or money, but about how people are complicated, how everyone carries invisible battles, and how one act of kindness can echo far beyond the moment it's given. He listened with wide eyes, and when she finished, he hugged her tightly. Years later, Lily would look back on that night as a turning point, not because of the money alone, but because it reminded her that even in a world that often feels cold and unfair, compassion still exists. It reminded her that people can change, that hearts can soften, and that hope can be found in the most unexpected places. If this story moved you, if it reminded you to look twice at the people around you and choose kindness even when it's hard, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel Kindness Talks. Because stories like these matter, and sharing them helps keep compassion alive. Sometimes, what's left under the plate isn't just money or a note. Sometimes, it's a reminder that humanity is still worth believing in.